Welcome, everybody, to Business Lunatics, the weekly show where four fearless loonies pull back the curtain on the wild, the wonderful, and sometimes downright ridiculous world of entrepreneurship. You got to be a lunatic to keep moving forward. We're going to talk about these things with no fluff, no BS, just business madness. And today we're talking about leadership and culture inside of a business and how does that impact the energy? How does that impact? How people is it giving people energy or is it draining it? So with that in mind, Rochelle, why don't you take it away?
I just find today that a lot of companies do not emphasize, notice the word I use, emphasize culture. They think that it's there, it may not be there, but I don't know too many people that are proactive and are creating the culture. Now, my thought is I'm talking about New York. Right now, a lot of business owners are still having a problem with getting people back into the office.
Mhm.
My thought is you have to give people an amazing reason. Why do they have to travel an hour in each direction to come into an office when they have been used to working virtually at home? Like, what's in it for them? And it's not because you're demanding it. We've got to give them a reason. So, my question for most business owners is if you are requiring people to come back into the office, who do they become because they're working for you? What's their path for growth? What are you contributing to to the wealth and the well-being of their career? And if you can't answer that very effectively, you're really saying these my employees are not as valuable, and you better get ready because another company will. Culture is king today. You want to be a distinguishing factor. Why does somebody want to work for you? Why do they want to give their expertise, their time, their effort, their dedication to your firm? And I'm suggesting you need a great reason for that. Anybody
Uh,
else wants to, and especially now when people are virtual. And we can go into how do you create culture if you are virtual. Anybody
I
else
want
want to kind of
Yeah,
piggyback off what I just said?
there's a lot of stuff we can talk about there because one is if you have the mindset as a leader that people are working for you, that's right off the bat you just failed because they're working with you. And that's really a big shift in the mindset because if you get
Yep.
people to understand that they're working with you and you're together, you just happen to be the leader, that's a differentiator right off the bat because if you have the mindset that you work for me, no, I work for myself. I'm selling you my time. That's really what's happening as an employee. So you got to change that dynamic. The other aspect to answer the thing is why should people come into the office? One of the reasons it could be very well packaged is the fact that you're getting the team together so you get some in-person collaborative. And it's sometimes it should probably take a little bit of to make it a fun day, partially, not all day, but a fun hour where everybody's back into the office, getting together, getting to know one another, high-fiving one another, and just building that human connection. That's creating that energy. And that's now showing leadership that you're really empowering your team. And now there's a reason for them to want to come into the office because they get to hang out. They have some, lunch is brought in. It's cheap money. But you bring in
True.
lunch, you get everybody together, everybody's breaking bread together, getting a
Right.
chance to build relationships in person. And then poof, you go back out virtual. My wife is in the other room working. She's been working for the company almost 8 years, all day long, virtual. But once a year, or a couple times a year, they fly everybody back in to Coral Gables, Florida, and it's a party time. And it's over a weekend, and they come in on Thursday, Friday, business meetings, all that kind of stuff. And then they go out, they rent a boat, they go out on the ocean, they went to uh, what was that guy that got that clothing individual that was killed in Florida. Can't think of it, but they went to his house. Uh, it was a fashion
Versace.
designer.
Uh,
Which one?
Versace.
Yeah, that's it. They went to the Versace house. Thank you. And they went and had a party there. Of course, they said nobody jump into the pool till 15 minutes before we're done because we'll all get kicked out. but that was from the top down, and
You
she
know,
loves the company. So there's a lot of things they win. They have prizes. We've won more Airbnb prizes because they do things to keep everybody going. So there's
Freddie.
a lot that can be done if you get yourself out of your own way as a leader and start looking at how can you empower your team to become who they can be.
Go
Freddie,
ahead,
we
Steve.
are humans are social beings. We love the social interaction. We need social interaction, just who we are as a being in this earth. I personally, I mean, I was doing cloud back in 2007, 2010 when I bought Cloud Nation and I started doing complete true virtual desktops. And there's some amazing benefits to work from home. I've been doing it since 2007, taking some days of just working from home. And it's great. It's nice. And I think the employees enjoy it. But there's nothing like getting together, camaraderie. Like, if you're on a sales team and you got a bell and you make a sale, ring a ring a ring, you ring that bell literally. And I mean, not figuratively, we're literally ringing the bell. There's some excitement that happens and you feel that camaraderie that kicks in. Being a Marine, I'm all about brother and sisterly love, being a part of a team, and all that kind of stuff. But there's some really nice benefits. And I'll use my daughter, who's a great example. During the pandemic, she worked for graphic designer, worked for GQ magazine. And they started off obviously nobody in the office, and then it was one day a week you come to the office, but it was kind of like um a skeleton crew of people were coming in. It wasn't a lot of people. So it was still kind of eerie. She was like, Dad, it's weird. I go in there and like there's one or two people. It's very strange. She's 26 at the time, 25. I'm like, so you just do your work, keep your head down. The other days you get to stay home. Don't worry about it. But I think you gotta find as the leader, Freddie, as you said, you gotta find the right balance of in person, going to the office. Hey, it's a real nice benefit not to have to drive an hour each way. Let's do something nice for the employees as well. And if you set the environment up properly where you're having regular meetings, maybe every quarter, you get together or once every 6 months or once a year, whatever it is, and you get to actually see, touch, and feel people, especially now the pandemic's not really driving our worlds right now. I think it's really important, and I think it's a necessary thing in team building. And the last thing I'll say is, as a leader, lead by example. Ask somebody,
Yeah, I
"Hey,
mean,
how you doing today? How do you feel? You okay?"
yeah. I mean, like for example, I think what we're talking about are small businesses, right?
Mhm.
And in the small business environment, you control the energy. Are you draining it or giving them energy? Number one. And number
Yep.
two is, I think you and your culture decide what works. And what I mean by that is let's scale all the way up to Apple, who is literally demanding and forcing everybody back into this massive building that they invested
'Cause it's
into.
about culture.
Is a, no, so
They want to
my
get their culture back.
Right.
they want to get their culture back, but they can't get their culture back the old way. So the answer is a hybrid system, but the hybrid system has to be wrapped around your culture, your business, your employees. And like Freddie was saying, it has to be designed by the leadership to accommodate everybody's well-being. And I
Mhm.
Right.
love your point about working with and for a company. This goes back to the Stephen Covey days back in the 1990s, the 7 habits of effective people, right? Remember that?
Leaders, yeah.
Leaders, yeah. And so I think it's important for leadership to understand that, like you said, Freddie, the employee is selling their time to you as the leadership, as the owner of the company. You need to decide how you're going to interact and respect that process. Yes, you're paying them, they're providing time, and ultimately everybody's working with each other. So
Correct.
based on that culture, if you make that your basis, decide what your
Treat them like a
culture
team
is
member,
willing to
not
work.
like an
Yeah,
employee.
because it goes
Yeah, but
beyond
that
that. Go
yeah,
ahead.
go ahead.
So
Let me just wrap up with this. I mean, I think the answer is that for you, your culture, your team, I'm not going to call them employees, your team, You have to decide what works. Does it mean that you can do it 100% virtual? Does it mean you need a hybrid system? Or do we need to go as far up as Apple and corporations of that nature that are trying to force everybody back into the building? Um, I don't think the forcing is going to work, but who am I to tell Apple what to do? So anyway, go ahead, Freddie.
Yeah, no, what I was going to say is that it sometimes when you're building that environment, the culture in your company. I'll just share a simple story. This goes back a long time ago, back in the early 80s. We were prepping for our software presentation. We were going from teaching people from 2D drafting boards to 3D design on the computer. So you had to take somebody's design, put it in the computer, practice designing it so that when they came in for the presentation, we would demo it. So we were there, three of us, and it was late at night, 11:30ish, and our manager, his first name was Tom, shows up with pizza and beer and sits down with us at the office, knowing that we're prepping, knowing we're pulling an all-nighter, because the presentation is on a Wednesday, the presentation is Thursday. And we have pizza and beer in the office, okay? And then he leaves. We do the all-nighter. We do the bathroom refresh, put the suits on, and it's game day for Thursday. When we were done, he sat in the presentation, said it was a great presentation, went well, looked like it's going to go in the right direction. We may get the sale. And he basically said, "All right, guys, it's Thursday afternoon. Get out of here. I'll see you Monday." Those little things are really the things
Yeah.
that really make a big difference because I still remember it
Yep.
40 some years later. And
Sure.
and what we had a camaraderie, which is what Steve was saying earlier, was we built a camaraderie as a team within the company. So it wasn't so because of the environment that was inducive for creating that. We would go camping together, as I mentioned, before we started recording. We would go to games. We would go to happy hour together as the office, or half of the
Mhm.
office, or a
Yeah,
quarter of
but
the
a lot of
office.
offices today don't have the budget for that. Especially, I'm thinking of New York
But
to go
they
to a
do have a
game.
budget to be nice to each other and for the leadership to be considerate and realize that employee, team member, whatever you plan to call them, they're really your first customer. You take care
Exactly.
of that person, they will take care of everybody your company interacts with.
That's my
And
super
it doesn't
fan.
have to
That's my
be a
super fan
camping trip
approach.
or money or any of that kind of stuff,
You know what I
Michelle. It
think
can
is
be
really
anything.
important? What's missing in a lot of companies is gratitude and acknowledgement. It's very
Right.
interesting. When somebody makes a mistake, it's very quick to say, you know what, you blew it. And, there can be anger, there could be whatever. But I don't know too many people that acknowledge a win, that say, you know what, I really appreciate your effort. I worked years ago with a person that owned seven McDonald's, and what he did to his employees was unbelievable. There was a woman that literally spoke no English, and she was really responsible for the cleanliness of the place. One day he comes in. I mean, I don't know what the heck is going on. He's got a bouquet of balloons, and everybody circles this woman and starts screaming, "Thank you, thank you, thank you," starts applauding her and say, and this is the woman that's cleaning the floors. She was so moved and touched
Hmm.
by this acknowledgement. And he looks at her straight in the face and says, "You are valuable, and I appreciate everything that you do." There were other
It goes
employees
a
that
long
he
way.
Yeah.
there were other employees that he would give, two tickets to the movies. He said, "You know what, you had a really, you had a great week this week. You go into the movies." These are smaller things of acknowledgement that a company can afford. We don't have to
Mhm.
start, going out to do camping together, but you can afford to send somebody to the movies. So we got to look at, where does gratitude come in? The more gracious you are as a leader, the more appreciative you are, the more that you acknowledge and say, "Thank you, you matter, I see you," the more that your culture is going to be cohesive, and people will want to come to work because they're recognized. Now, the opposite happens. What happens if you have somebody that's not so great, that's in a leadership position, that brings the energy down. How do you deal with
I'm not
that?
going to
But that's
follow him into battle. I can tell you that much.
But you bring up a great,
If I
but you
have
bring
that
up,
kind of a leader, I'm not going to follow him into battle.
Oh,
I can
yeah,
tell you that.
that happened.
but I want to add to what Rochelle said because it's spot on. Because in my book, Creating Business Superfans, one of my quotes is, "People will crawl through broken glass for appreciation and recognition." And you're absolutely right. It's not given enough. And those that do, it's the team just changes, the dynamics change dramatically. And to go back to the point of, what you're talking about, that person at the McDonald's, I had a guest on my show, and he talked about going to a hospital and saw the janitor there and asked the janitor what his role was. And his answer, which blew this guy away, was, "My job is to help doctors save lives by making sure that the operating rooms are spotless so the patients don't get sick." And just that mindset shift, he wasn't a janitor. He was
Yep.
important component because his job saved lives.
Yep.
we've got
I
to
mean,
That's
Rochelle,
acknowledge.
Rochelle, you bring up an interesting point, and it's an analogy that was given to me moons and moons ago. But in order to be that leader that you're talking about, right, the one that has the gratitude and does the acknowledgement, I think it's the same person that should be able to call the energy company up and say, thank you for keeping the energy on 99.9% of the time every year, right?
yeah.
How many of us do that? We
Right.
are the first to make a phone call to the energy company the moment that electricity is down, down, right?
Great point. Great point.
And my
It
point is that
is.
I mean, think about how often do we not have energy in our homes? Like what? Once a
Not
year? I mean,
not that
I'm
often.
saying averages. I'm just saying average, roughly speaking, right? I mean, I know we have like major storms and all of a sudden, people are out for a week. And but by the same token, in those situations, you've got 5 states worth of crews coming in to help one state with their particular problem, right? That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the scenarios where, it's out for a few hours. Everybody's on the phone with the energy company saying, "Where's my where's my electricity?" And
Yeah.
so I, as you were talking, Michelle, that's the one thing that came to my mind. You have to be able to be a person to call the energy company up and say, "Thank you for keeping my lights on."
And
Right?
Well,
that,
And that
that
same
and it's
person is going to do the gratitude and
Same
acknowledgement that you're
same
talking
thing
about.
as just asking somebody, like if someone's having a rough day or they're just not performing properly, whatever, instead of just yelling at them and saying, why can't you do your
Yeah.
job? What's your problem? Maybe say to them with a little empathy, like, is everything okay?
Yeah.
well,
Like
here's
Yeah.
things
the
going on
big
in the
thing that
home?
most
You'd be
companies don't
surprised when
do.
you find out.
right.
You'd be surprised.
Here's a biggie that most companies don't do. Let's take maternity leave. Here's a woman
Mm,
who's
that was
gone
a good
out,
one.
just had a child. Our country is dismal with maternity leave. Canada, you actually have a year off. In this
A
country, you're lucky if
year.
you get a year off.
That's
Over
about
here, you're
Wow.
lucky if you get 6 weeks, sometimes 12. You're really lucky. See, here this woman is coming back. She's guilty. She doesn't know what to do. What do I do first? Do I take care of an infant that's only 12 weeks old? I had to leave this infant with somebody other than me who's responsible for the health and well-being and future of a baby that's 12 weeks old, and I'm coming into the office and going over accounts receivables. Okay, I mean, when you're talking, and then she's guilty. Now, how is the culture supporting her?
See, that would be one where she should be allowed to work from home
But
for
she's
a
not.
period of
But she's
time. I mean,
not. So
again,
what?
yeah.
but we got to get, part of our show here is to really help educate people so they kind of get themselves out of their own way. So, one of the things that I think, would be
He's
telling people is that
recommending. He's recommending.
recommending, there you go, is that you change the dynamics and
But
and
how
change
about
the
if it's
rules.
not from the top? How about it's from her coworkers? Imagine her coming back and the coworkers say, "You know what? Congratulations. Let me take you out to lunch because I know how difficult this is for you. Congratulations. I can't wait to see the baby picture." Where's her welcome? Where's her cushioning back into the
Well,
office?
I don't think we can
Ask
speak for all
policy.
companies. I don't think you can speak for all companies, and I'm sure you're not trying to. But I think that the moral to the story here is that empathy and consideration and, treating each other like humans, because we are, at the end of the day, at the core of it all, we're just people trying to make a living, trying to take care of our loved ones, to have babies, whatever it is. And I
Empathy is
think
the
we'll
big
do it a
thing.
lot better if we are in a good culture environment. If you're in a browbeaten environment where people treat you like you're garbage and they don't respect you, and like I used to give my employees a $25 gift card just for doing a nice gesture, or I'd allow my employees to recommend somebody as like the employee of the week, give a $50 gift card. And on our Friday morning meetings, we'd be having bagels, talking about our tech clients that we had to support that day and coming week, and I announced the person in front of everybody. And it was like you would go a mile. It was like $50. Went a mile to
It's
make
but
them
it's
happy.
it goes back to the little things are really the big things because that was a little thing to you, but to that individual it was a big thing, and more
Right.
importantly, that individual being recognized in front of peers is even a bigger thing for them
Yeah.
because then they feel like a rock star. And then the other thing it does is it elevates everybody in the organization that says, "Wow, they actually care." And they go home and go, hey, honey, look, let me tell you what happened. You
I
know,
got an Amazon card.
yeah.
Woo!
And
Here's the
so,
other
Well,
thing.
and that's how you create that energy, and then
the,
it just continues and grows.
it's
Here's
the
the
energy
other
of
thing that I
culture, though.
love, Steve. I
Exactly.
love the word that you said, empathy. Because here's the key. We don't know what anybody is going through. We
Not
don't
unless
know.
you ask
You
them.
don't know if somebody just lost their grandparent and they're grieving. You don't know if somebody in your organization is dealing with somebody in their home that's dealing with a long term illness. We don't know.
Mhm.
And because of that, I think on a day to day, how do we stress empathy, appreciation, patience, and acknowledge that? And I think that that's so important
Yeah.
for any business leader to take into account as a primary thing and not secondary. That's
Yeah.
my thought on
Well,
that one.
and there's
I'm gonna
something
add.
I can't.
Let me add to that
Okay.
real quick. And that's that you bring me of another story, and that was one of my top customers that referred me tons of business through other manufacturing companies. The IT manager and I, we had a good relationship. I'm going in there for a meeting to talk about stuff, so I'm, in business mode. I come in and I recognize his demeanor that it was off. He was just not himself. So I asked him what was going on, and he shared he was getting divorced. I said, all right, Bob was his first name. I said, Bob, I'm going to the restaurant. So guess sat at the restaurant drinking beers, buying him lunch, and listening to what was going on? This guy. Because
Yep.
it made a huge difference. I could tell visually he needed to talk to somebody. And I put the business aside. And, I'm still friends with this guy 40 some years later.
Yep. I mean, as we're talking about culture, and empathy, right? And a lot of everything we just covered covers that general topic. And alongside with what I just said about the energy company, right? Did you call them up? Let's make this more practical for the viewership. When's the last time you sent an email to the accounting department and said thank you for getting my paycheck to me on time?
Hmm.
Right? I'm just saying something
I would,
simple,
but I'm
right?
my own paycheck, so
Well, I'm not necessarily talking about us. I'm talking,
Same thing to a
No, you're
supplier for
right.
coming through and
right,
delivering your
Yeah.
resources.
right.
I
I
think
mean,
it's just a mindset. You talk about culture, it's really about mindset and just having a grateful heart. Just having, the mindset of like, wow, I'm lucky to be here. I'm lucky to be doing what I'm doing. I'm lucky to know you guys. I'm lucky to be a part of this podcast. I'm just thankful to all of that. So I'll say thank you guys for being a part of this. And that's really
yeah.
how I feel in general, you know.
Yeah, likewise.
And when we get together every week and we record our show and we put it all together and we get to learn from each other as well. especially with different opinions and perspectives. And on that note, guys, let's slowly wrap it up. Now, if you want to, I can tell you what the takeaways are for each one of you.
Sure, go
Because
ahead.
Let's go. Let's
There
go.
could be something
I've
Do
been
it.
different.
writing them down.
Wind it up for us,
Let's,
boss.
let's line it up. All right, Rochelle, culture is king. We also talk about gratitude and an acknowledgement. Freddy, uh, for versus with working with a company or a leadership, making it a fun day, building camaraderie. Steve, humanizing, human need for social interaction as well as empathy and consideration. I came away, I had mentioned, are you giving energy or draining it? It's the energy of culture. So those are my takeaways from you guys from the course of the show.
Well done.
On that note,
Nice.
though, everybody tell me what you thought.
I think you summarized it great. And again,
Yeah.
it's appreciation, show appreciation. And it's not just at work, in life. Who do we appreciate? And we need to acknowledge it. And I think that makes such a difference.
Yep.
Yep.
The only thing I will add is it's nice to be nice, I've said before, but more importantly, reach out to someone that you're wondering how they're doing, you haven't heard from in a while, because they're probably struggling. You know what I
Reach
mean?
out
And
is a good one.
be
I
And,
agree.
empathetic.
and I'm going to add one last thing: is do an unexpected extra.
Oh,
Yep.
that's a goodie. That's a goodie right there.
Do
And I
something
think
unexpected extra.
a summary might be culture is your company's operating system.
Ooh, I
Ah,
like that one.
Like that one?
wow.
Yeah, cool.
Put that one in the books, man.
That's a good one.
All right, guys. That's it for this week's show. Hit follow, hit subscribe. Join the Loonies next week for no more fluff, no BS, no
You
business,
can
and
say
just
bullshit.
pure.
It's okay.
I'm keeping it simple. PG
Continue
13
to that.
and and just pure business madness. Thank you very much for joining us today on Business Lunatics.
Yeah.